Maternal and infant mortality rates are high, and the hope is that the stories of the women who share their stories today will change the narrative for the many others, that the silent tears and voices amplified today will soon be the wheels of change in the vicious cycle of deaths told from generation to generation. That the tears will turn the tides, and decision makers and policy makers will ensure that every woman gets the life-saving care she needs. As you watch, you will ask, listen, and act, because change is possible, so that the stories told after this will be to document change. Motherhood is a long and arduous journey, and whose highlight is the 9 months that a mother carries a pregnancy. Every woman has a unique experience to narrate, from the aches and pains to the moments of doubt or the momentous loss of a pregnancy. It's a familiar narrative all around the country.
Over the years, I have suffered multiple miscarriages and endured heavy and unbearable pain of losing my 8 children in between my first child and the last born. I lost many children until I thought I would also die.
Yiamat subsists on livestock production in the arid lands of Kajiado in Kenya's Rift Valley. She lost most of her herds to the recent drought. The few animals that survived might not be enough to keep her family going, not for long anyway. But she knows she has to count her losses and keep going, including the loss of 5 of her 8 children that she lost in childbirth.
I used to get complications at around the 5th or 6th month of pregnancy, with severe pains in my lower abdomen extending towards my right leg. The hospitals are far away, and when the complications began, I had to be taken all the way to Nkisilo or Kajiado Hospital, which is about 25 kilometers on a motorcycle, since there are no cars around or ambulances for assistance. During the journey, I bled out and miscarried along the way. In other times, I developed complications at home and ended up miscarrying in the house before being taken to the hospital. After the experience, my husband took me to a hospital in Kitengela. I got support from my community and neighbors who came together for a fundraiser to cater for the hospital scan, and that is when I got proper treatment for my uterine anomalies, which was causing recurrent miscarriages.
What pains even more is that Yiamat reckons her babies could have been saved if the bad roads had been fixed, so the trip to the hospital was bearable. If the medical diagnosis came sooner, maybe the outcome may have been different. She understands there's no point in living in the past or even dwelling on a future her children never got to see. Still, the trauma lingers on.
The roads here are bad. My losses have been contributed greatly by this. Most of my losses have been on the road. I usually say if the children survived, it would be better. Maybe I would have had girls, because our culture values children a lot. They are blessings not only to the family, but also to the entire community. I had preselected names for my children, both girls and boy names for all the 5 children who died. Names like Lemayan, Leshan, and Naserian. And even now, when I hear those names being called out in other children in the community, I get flashbacks.
Quite often, what determines if a baby survives or not are the regular antenatal clinics all expectant mothers must make and which are available in health facilities around the country. It is recommended that expectant mothers should make between 4 to 8 visits so that any potential health complications are nipped in the bud. It's something Victoria Rioba knows too well.
Asubuhi siku moja, ilikuwa November 2016, nikaacha mtoto kaa nishamnyonyesha. Nikamwacha hapo kwa kitanda kama amekaa, amelala, na babake alikuwa hapo kando yake. So sikumaliza hata 2 minutes, nimeenda tu nikarudi. So kurudi, nikaingia tu kwa bed. So kuingia tu kwa bed nikaanza kulala. So kulala, naona mtoto move. Nikashtuka mara moja. So kushtuka, kwenda kumgeuza, napata macho ishatani. Amefunika macho. So ndo nikashtuka. Kushtuka ndo nikumbeba. Ndio hiyo nikatoka hapo na kelele. Mimi sikuwa najua bado ni historia ya Reza. Sikuwa kwa akili yangu. Nilijua tu hao ndio wamemaliza mtoto wangu. Washashona nguo, masoda zinaingia. Washaita pasta, wanatengeneza sanduku. So nikasema, kwani umejua kitu kilikuwa inafanyika hapa? Mbona wako prepared tu hivi? Mimi pia nikajam nao. Nikageuka mwenda wazimu hapo ndani. Nikamwambia muziki before parents wangu wakuje. Walikuwa TZ watu. Mimi ndo nilikuanga hapa Kenya peke yangu. Nikachukua nikajifungia kwa nyumba. Hadi siku parents wangu wale travel wakakuja, ndo nikawatolea mtoto. Ndo nikamwambia mom, dad, bahati mbaya mmemwona kama ashakufa. Nikawake kwa mkono hivi. Saizi alikuwa ananuka. So tena ikatokea siku moja pia 2017. Ndio nikapata tena boli ya pili. Nilitravel hapa Kisumu nikaenda huko Shago kwa bwana. So kufika ndio nikasikia hiyo pain. So kusikia hiyo pain nikaita mother-in-law. Ilikuwa kitu saa moja hivi. Ndio kuita mother-in-law, kushtuka tu hivi nikashtuka kama nimezaa kwa nyumba. Wakaniita hao mama ndio wakakata. So kukata akasema wewe umezaa vizuri. Hauna shida, there's no need ya kwenda usi hata check up. Nikachukua almost 3 weeks na huyu mtoto. So siku moja tukilala pia tuna babake tu hapo. Na kitu saa 8. Sasa nikasema amelala sana. Wacha nimnyonyeshe, nisimweke na njaa. Si ndio kushtuka hivi napata babake hayuko. So I think yeye alisha realize kenye imefanyika. So kwenda kushika mtoto ako baridi. Kumtanisha hivi. Kumbe alishaenda. Wakaita pasta hapo, wanataka kuzika. Nikatoka. Kutoka nikamwambia, nikachukua mtoto nikaekea mother-in-law kwa mkono. Nilimwambia na Kijaluo, ano kabinyual tonyetinda totatu akawe mondi hiki. Kwa Kiswahili nilimwambia, chukueni mtoto wenyu mzike. Mimi na nimechoka na nyinyi. Si nikaacha wakazika mtoto hapo peke yao. Nikarudi jioni, nikachukua tu bag yangu. Mbona nilitoka kwa hiyo boma. So nikakaa kitu 7 years, nilisema sitawashika mimba. Hata nijipate, siwezi nijikute pia. Nilisema siwezi. Nikakaa 7 good years. Ndio nikapata first born wangu. So nikaenda clinic Lumumba. Wakanipima. Ndio wakapata niko Reza negative. Hapo ndio nilikuja kujua kumbe niko na hiyo shida na maybe nilikuwa inaleta wale watoto shida. So kuna clinic Russia ndo akaniambia venye hiyo dawa inafaa kudungwa the moment nimeshika ball 3 inafaa kudungwa mara 3.
Now, a happy mother of 2, Rioba is happy to share her story. She finds it therapeutic to share her story, especially to women who have endured similar anguish. She wants to empower other women with information. In any case, one more death is one too many. Globally, a woman dies every 2 minutes during pregnancy or childbirth, according to the latest estimates by a UN report. Mothers should not lose their own lives in the process of bringing forth new life into this world.
My name is Frederick Odhiambo Were. Other people call me CEO, other people call me Baba Ivana. Ivana is my daughter.
When fathers are left holding the babies, they have to learn on the go how to nurture them to life, even though mothers are the primary caregivers. And while many fathers are sustained by the memories of the spouses they lost, they are scarred by the persistent questions if the deaths could have been avoided.
Tulikuwa tunaendelea tu na manini. Hizo ni prenatal clinics. So everything was good. Sasa tuko na cheza na dates. Alikuwa amepewa. So ikafika hiyo day kama tujaenda. Walikuwa tunaangalia hizo matarehe. So ikabidi nimemwambia date ndio imefika, hebu tuende hospitali tusipatikane hapa off guard. Tukaenda hospitali fulani nilikuwa tumeprefer hapa South B. They were good enough kutuambia huyu mtoi ni mkubwa sana, akona weight, so rather than mkae hapa and then ikuwe labda complicated kunini since ni mkubwa hiyo delivery process, I'd rather tuandike tu referral mwende either Kenyatta ama Pumwani. Tukalala tu poa, usiku akaniambia ni kama naenda short call. Nikamwambia si short call because ilikuwa na damu pia kidogo.
Frederick says he and his late wife followed all the steps they were advised to take to ensure a safe delivery.
So tumi nimengojea, akaniambia naenda, pressure imepanda, naenda theater. Nikamwambia basi acha tuongee after 2 hours. I made that call, introduced myself. Akaniambia yeah, we know about you. Na nani bado ako labor ward. That was around midnight. 1 hour later bado ako theater. Around close to 2 a.m. bado napiga tu, bado ako theater. So around 3-4 hapo wananiambia already ni asubuhi, just come to the hospital ukiamka. When I arrived at the hospital, to some office head nurse, they gave me a file and these other doctors came with another file. Akatuambia tu it is unfortunate that we lost Purity during the CS procedure, but the baby was well, so they said.
Frederick's life changed overnight, not just because of his wife's demise, but to the challenges ahead.
So it was more or less like a double tragedy, because I'm here, the baby is not well, the mother is not there, she's not able to speak, so you cannot actually know problem inaweza kuwa iko wapi. The baby is with my mama. Kwetu Oshago Kisumu constituency seme. We should be celebrating the 3rd birthday on June 16th. So 16th ndio birthday, ndio anniversary. We are doing our best kuona kama we can do those loads of therapy which are very expensive. Tuone kama anaweza kuja kutembea at some point.
Severe bleeding, high blood pressure, pregnancy-related infections, complications from unsafe abortion, and underlying conditions that can be aggravated by pregnancy, such as HIV and AIDS and malaria, are some of the leading causes of maternal mortality. These conditions are largely preventable and treatable with good access to healthcare.
I wish we could go to the hospital early. We could have probably averted either this death. This other situation my baby is in, naambiwa, is because the prolonged labor. She's not able to sit on her own. She's not able to walk on her own. She's not able to touch.
Nkisilo Kitima is a grandmother who has had to step in and take up the role of mother to her grandchild after her daughter died due to complications from her pregnancy.
When I lost my daughter, I was at home. I tried to look for means and ways to get her to the hospital. The road network is poor and cars hardly pass here. Just when I was checking around, she died.
Maternal mortality is disproportionately high in low-income countries like Kenya and in countries riven with conflict. In 2020, about 70% of all maternal deaths were in sub-Saharan Africa.
We as Maasai, when a person dies, we don't follow up on the cause of death. It's in our culture. The next step when someone dies is to look around among the family who shall take care of the children they leave behind. Until now, we have not known the cause of her death.
The 2019 census in Kenya revealed unexpectedly high maternal mortality ratio of 355 per 100,000 live births. Many of these cases were reported in rural Kenya, where poverty and poor access to healthcare facilities placed women in peril, and many of them are the breadwinners.
I have been taking care of my grandchildren in the same place that I live. We live in poverty. My other children took in some of the grandchildren left behind. The ones that remained, we make do with what we have. Today we eat, tomorrow we skip a meal. We are just surviving.
They say it rains the hardest in the ocean. Once upon a time, Nkisilo, who raised her children in great difficulty, hoped they would live long enough to raise their own children, breaking the cycles of tragedy that had become the norm. She dreamt of a time when good roads would improve their access to hospitals and reduce maternal mortality, but that remains but a distant dream.
My hope is that I raise my grandchildren well. I want to educate them, to feed them, clothe them like other children so that they grow up to be successful like other children who have parents. Losing a mother is tougher for a child. I give it my all so that my grandchildren live their best and not say that it's because they don't have a mother they can't succeed. Raising the grandchildren has been tough and challenging. We're jobless. My husband is jobless. My other surviving children do odd jobs to make ends meet. The little they get is what we use to buy food, but most days we stay without food. To get school fees is also a challenge. We depend on livestock. The recent drought affected us and most of our livestock died. The number of days we lack are more than the number of days we get food.
Hapo kitambo nilikuwa naitwa changamoto wakati nilianza kutunga shairi. Nilikuwa na changamoto mingi sana, changamoto za maumbile, jinsi nilivyo mlemavu.
Emily Chesebe had a different dream. A poet with a physical disability, she did not see her condition as limiting until she got pregnant. Now she narrates those travails through poetry, reminding of the small things that could go a long way in aiding those with special needs.
Mtoto wa kwanza anaitwa Jacqueline, na huyo mtoto vile nilikuwa mjamzito nilianguka, nikaumia, then nikagonjeka sana. Vile nikapelekwa hospitali Misiho. Nikahudumiwa mahali pale, lakini kuwezekana madaktari wakasema huyo mtoto akiendelea kukua ndani ya tumbo mimi nitakufa. So nikapewa madawa zingine ili huyo mtoto atolewe mimi nipone. Na huyo mtoto vile nilipewa hizo madawa, huyo mtoto akatoka akiwa mzima miezi saba. Na alikuwa 1.14 kilos. Akawekwa kwa nursery, huyo mtoto ako mzima, ameolewa. Mtoto wa pili, wakati nilikuwa naenda clinic, nilizungushwa hospitali mpaka nikachoka na sikuwa naweza kutembea, nikaanguka. Na wakati yenye nilianguka nilikasirika sana na sikurudi hospitali clinic. Nikakaa nyumbani mpaka wakati wa kujifungua huyo mtoto wangu wa pili. Nilikuwa najifungulia nyumbani. So kwa bahati mbaya mtoto akatangulia miguu. So na wale wamama walikuwa wananisaidia wakashindwa kwa sababu hawakuwa na experience ya kutosha. Mtoto akatangulia na miguu kufika kwa shingo, nikashindwa. Akajaribu kunisaidia mpaka mtoto akachoka. Sikuweza. Sasa nikampoteza huyo mtoto wa pili na nilibleed sana kwa sababu hao wamama walikuwa wanajaribu ili wanisaidie, na kwa vile hawakuwa na ujuzi ya kutosha waliniumiza sana. Niliumia sana hata mpaka nikableed kupita kiasi. Na nikampoteza huyo mtoto kwa jinsi hiyo.
Such experiences, she says, compels person with disabilities to shun hospitals, which could explain the rise in home births, where new mothers feel they would be better cared for. But that does not take away the risk that comes with home deliveries, as birth attendants cannot deal with complications.
Kumekuwa na desturi ya kwamba mama akijifungulia nyumbani, mama mwenzake atamsaidia hata mgombanisha. Kuna mahospitali zingine, mama akienda kujifungua, yule daktari ambaye angemsaidia anamuongelesha vibaya. So hasa mtu anaamua ajifungulia nyumbani. So ningependa tu kusema kwa madaktari pia waweze kuhandle wamama ambao wanataka kujifungua kwa njia inayofaa, waongeleshe kwa upendo. Upate mafundisho ya kutosha ya kuambia ya kwamba kama kuna mama mlemavu ama mtu yeyote ambaye ni mlemavu akienda hospitalini achukuliwe kwa njia inayofaa.
That's the collective cry. When will the burdens that women have borne for so long be finally lifted? Life is hard in these remote parts of the country. Women walk for long distances to find water. This exposes them to the risk of sexual assault, while valuable time that could have gone into activities to improve family income is devoted to finding this basic need. This keeps families under the clutches of poverty. Poor families will not have resources to take their children to school. Ill-educated families will not prioritize seeking healthcare services during pregnancy, and the vicious cycle spins endlessly. These new statistics reveal the urgent need to ensure every woman and girl has access to critical health services before, during, and after childbirth, and that they should fully exercise their reproductive rights. Community-based primary healthcare facilities can provide basic services for women, children, and adolescents to access critical services. These include assisted births and antenatal and postnatal care, childhood vaccinations, nutrition, and family planning. However, underfunding of primary healthcare systems, a lack of trained healthcare personnel, and weak supply chains for medical products are undermining progress.
And as such at White Ribbon Alliance, and one of the reasons why I founded White Ribbon Alliance is because I wanted to raise the profile and the visibility of the issue, but also not raise it from the place of letting other people lead the way, but making women and girls and their communities and families lead the way in ensuring that their voices shape policies and programs, financing, how things are done to ensure that at the end of the day, there is quality, equity, and dignity in care so that we can save them, but in essence, ensure that there's progress across communities, families, nations, but also the world at large and generations to come. Because when we do that, then at the end of the day, we are not just saving women, but we are saving the society in general. Women who have had postpartum bleeding and or families that have had women who have experienced this can actually tell us what were the gaps and how can we address them. So they become the champions. Their stories shape the narrative, the policies and the programming gaps that are there. One of the missing links or the gaps that I see is the political will, but also the investment will, but also the programming will. I call it the will. Where there is a will, there's a way. I can tell you we have a lot of policies. Follow through in investments for those policies, for the implementation. But most importantly, it's because we have kept women at the back burner. The apathy. One of the ways to address these challenges is to start by asking, listening, to prioritize, and acting together with women so that we can see change. When you educate women and enable them to have that power, ignite that power within them, they can be able to ask questions around that care. Such that when you come to me, you don't just wait for me to tell you, but you ask me and tell me. It's a conversation, it's a partnership so that my care can improve and you can achieve, I can achieve what I need to achieve at the end of the day. So for me, there are many other ways in way we can be able to educate, involve, and ignite the power to change and shape the current story of women, girls, newborns, and their families.
If you find yourself in this situation that you're expecting a baby, just do your due diligence. The hospital visits. I believe we have professionals as doctors that take care of situations that we are in. And in this case, maternal situations. Let's give professional advice to people that are in a situation like mine to make sure delivery is done and no life is lost.